those hours that you're putting in towards your goal of being more athletic or at a certain elite level, you have to weigh that with the other areas of your life, which are your family, relationships, and your work. And if you put more effort into training, you can almost guarantee that those two other areas are going to slip at a point.
And that balance is hard, dude.
For sure.
That's really hard. All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back to the Verity podcast. Monroe, first time this year, man. Happy New Year. What's going on with you, man?
Not a lot, man. Just trying to stay focused in the new year, trying to, keep progressing, keep pushing for more. So, set some goals for this year, and it's just kind of taking the actions that will lead me there. So that's kind of what I'm working on now.
What specifically are you working on right now, man?
So a lot of stuff with the gym. We had to get up new Instagram and Facebook pages. So if you guys aren't following, our new Instagram handle is @verity.training. Please go ahead and follow that. We had some issues with somebody hacked into our old account. So
why do people hate the world like that, man?
I don't know.
Because
there's money and everything else. But
yeah.
So just, kind of noodling through that and, looking at what the next steps for Verity are and, how we can kind of expand, looking to take some things more online. So trying to figure out how to get this whole retail situation, as well as like remote coaching, remote programming. So we're going to start kind of filtering those things into our offerings as well, which is pretty cool. And then personally, I've been journaling. So that was my thing for this year that I kind of started. So I bought the Daily Stoic Journal.
Yeah.
It has been great. It's been last night. I almost forgot to do my my nightly reflection.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a very cool experience to do that. So what about you?
Man, what am I working on this year? I've got a lot of stuff going on. Some of it I can share, some stuff I can't. Obviously, I think most people know, but we haven't talked about this on the podcast. I have a son on the way who's going to be here in June and July, so we're preparing for that. We're in the process of buying a home, which is very exciting. So with all that stuff, that's taking up the majority of my free time. In addition to that, there's a couple businesses that are like, they're in my head. They're not out there on paper or anything like that. But that's kind of out there as well. And then as far as fitness stuff goes, I'm really focusing on just developing strength more than anything. I really hadn't squatted, deadlifted probably in several months. And then really just trying to develop core strength more than anything else. I was having a ton of back problems. And I don't know if that was due to, my spine was out of alignment somewhere. So like we swapped out our mattress that we had. That seems to have helped. But I've also been doing core-related stuff, not every day, but probably 5 times a week. That's really helped as well. And then I need to actually put some metrics on it for the actual numbers for strength. But, I want to, get a 450 deadlift, a 400-pound back squat, and probably something with bench. The press I'm not too concerned about, to be honest. But
you have a strong bench, right?
My bench is not bad. It was probably like 265, last I looked at it or something. It's okay. But so I want to increase those numbers more than anything else. And then I want to have my blue belt in jiu-jitsu by the end of 2022,
nice, yeah.
Which I think that's possible. And then I want to be more efficient with my time is probably number one. I've done some stuff with that's been really helpful. My wife has taken over looking for properties for the housing stuff, which is, again, it's just something I don't have to have on my plate. Going to jiu-jitsu at 6:30 in the morning. I'm not an early riser, but I did that last week. Really helped. I don't have to step out in the middle of my day, which is really nice, and it's just over and it's done. The other thing that I did, and this was wild, because I track food as far as nutrition goes, and the other night I'm sitting there and I'm like, gosh, if I didn't have to do this during the day, this would be great. And I pretty much eat the same thing almost every single day. So I just basically put in a meal plan within there where I'm like, if I just eat these on days where I don't know what to do, I don't even have to think about what do I need to eat for lunch, what do I need to do for breakfast, dinner, so on and so forth. And that's really helpful. So that was a lot of stuff. But I've always got a lot of stuff on my plate that I'm trying to accomplish, man.
So question for you about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Do you prefer submissions or chokes?
Submissions.
Yeah, why?
Submissions by far. I just don't get
Chokes
the chokes,
are so
man.
cool, though. That was
Yeah,
my
I don't get
favorite.
the chokes. I mean, doing the triangle is probably my favorite thing to try to do. I got really long legs, so it helps for me to be able to do that. Chokes are fine. The choke is I can't even remember what they're all called.
Dude, the collar chokes, the
Yeah, so the
clock choke. I was like,
clock
I
choke
love
is
those.
pretty. The clock choke is pretty nifty. The collar choke is probably the number one submission that I end up getting when I do it. And I don't submit people that often. Still, like I'm 3-stripe. Like,
That's cool.
most people still get a hold of me.
Yeah.
It's fun now because I look back. I started last April, and man, I would kick the crap out of myself from last April. It's pretty amazing how that works and everything. And
No, it's
kinda
super.
how you build the
It's
foundation.
awesome. It's very skill based.
Yes,
which
it
is what I liked about it. And like, you get someone who's fit and strong against someone who's skilled, and you're just like, there's no comparison.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, I've rolled with Eloisa, who's like she's like 18-year-old woman. She could do whatever she wanted.
Yep.
That did not matter,
Yep.
right? And she's actually one of the best in the world in her age group and her belt level, and she's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So.
You try to put some muscle into people like that, and they're like, oh, no.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's not, like
maybe I
you
can
push me
just
around.
like hold them off for a little bit longer,
Yeah.
but no, the technical stuff, it's pretty incredible, like how much difference that really makes.
For sure.
Yeah, man. So, dude, we had a question from a member, somebody close to your heart. You can share if you want to who that was, or we can just talk about it. But I really like that question. I think it's something that I know I thought about
For sure.
for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of other athletes kind of at the I think just a lot of athletes in general kind of deal with this. Can you kind of elaborate on what the question was and then go from there?
Yeah. So the general question is like, what's the point? If you have achieved a level of fitness that is healthy and you love CrossFit and you want more from it, it's almost like the next logical step is like, oh, well, why don't you compete? And I think a lot of people just kind of follow that path kind of blindly without really, figuring out what's the point. It's kind of like when I went to high school, it was just like after high school, you go to college. That's just what you do. And like now, looking back on it, I'm like, that was the stupidest thing I could have done. I should have listened to my dad, and I should have, worked for another year, or gone to the military, or figured out,
That was the advice your dad gave you?
Yeah, 100%. He told me He told me I was not ready for college, and he was totally right.
Yeah, I like that.
But it was just kind of like that was like what everyone did, and so that's just what I kind of assumed. And so it's like I've noticed this trend with CrossFitters is where it's like, cool, I'm at the RX level. I can do muscle ups, I can do all this stuff, and they're like, oh, well, I got to be competitive now. Gotta up the training volume. Gotta take this to the next level. And I really don't think you need to. I think it's very similar, like going to college. Like, dude, there's plenty of ways to enjoy CrossFit without, training at a competitive level. But, I think a lot of people are lost on the why of, they get into the weeds of training like a competitor, and then they're like, why am I doing this? I'm already really fit. I'm already really strong. Like, what's the point of pushing to that next level? Or like, why am I spending my time doing this? So that was kind of the question that has kind of been rattling around in her brain for a while. And I'd like your opinion. What do you think the point is after you've achieved a pretty high level of fitness, like you have?
Mm-hmm.
You're an RX athlete. You can do everything as prescribed. You've got some bigger numbers than most of the average gym goers. And there was a time when you were doing more volume and, thinking about things differently, I guess. But like I know you said you had that why question, but like, how do you noodle through that decision, and, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that was really hard. That was really hard for me, man. So when I was going through that transition, it was about the time where I was here, right? So at the time I was pursuing my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, and started a new job, and was, just trying to provide, for her, for us in the future. And so priorities change, right? And I wasn't running a gym anymore. I was running a gym previously, which made, if I wanted to take a break, I would just stop and I would work out. That's what I would do. And it was wonderful, man. Some of the best times of my life doing that. But my life changed and my priorities changed of really what I wanted to do. But I still really wanted to be good. And when I first came into this, if you guys remember, Coach Pat Long, I came into this, and I was just as good as Pat was, right? At least back then. Then Pat got a lot better, and it wasn't really comparable anymore. But, I was in front of him in the 2020 Open, and, for some reason, I just, I think people are attracted to, it's fun being good at something. I think people are attracted to that. And I think naturally most people are competitive, too. And so when you're in the gym, you're like, well, I want to beat Monroe in these workouts, or I want to beat Jordan, I want to beat Pat in these workouts. And, if the training schedules are different, it's just not going to be reality, right? And that was very difficult for me to, I guess, just really be okay with. And that took years for me. It probably wasn't really until this past summer, kind of the fall, where I was really okay with where I was at, how much volume I'm doing, where I'm at now. And now it's just transitioned into, I want to do CrossFit. Now, CrossFit will be a part of, my regimen for the rest of my life in some capacity, but it's ultimately so that my ticker, my lungs, I keep a good amount of muscle mass. But really it's for health and longevity as I get older. That's really all it's for at this point. But that was really hard for me to transition to. And like I said, it took multiple years before I was really comfortable with that, right? And we talked about it on the podcast, and lots of times on the podcast I'd be like, well, I'm really trying to dial it back. I'm trying to do this, but in my head, it took years before I was really hey, it's okay that this isn't a thing competitively anymore. But man, I think people gravitate to that naturally because it's fun being good at something. CrossFit is fun, and if this stuff, brings you joy, and you just like working out for 5 hours a day, 3-4 workouts a day, then you're going to be good to go. Right.
No, I mean, I think that people put too much pressure on themselves, and one thing that you said was, it's fun to be good at something. And this is something that my wife brought up, she's like, I just want to be good at it. I just want to be good at CrossFit. And when you say something like that, my first question is well, what's good? What's good to you? What does it mean to be good at it? Because at a point, once you, can, CrossFit's a training methodology first. It's a sport second. So it's you want to be good at the training methodology, or do you want to be good at the sport? And if you're trying to be good at the training methodology, I think that's great. But if you're trying to be good at the sport, then other things in your life are probably going to have to change in order to accommodate that.
Yeah, and I think there's such a generalization of you just said, what is being good? Is that being, I don't know, the best female athlete at Verity Speed and Strength? Is that beating your open, times and placement from 2021? And I think most people kind of blindly go towards that, and I would for a long time too, right? I didn't really have specific goals, or maybe 3 or 4 things that I was trying to work towards. And I think that really helps, and at least keeps you grounded and reminds you of hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm not. If you're going towards a target that doesn't exist, chances are you're always going to be unhappy because you don't
100%.
Know what that target is, so you can't reach it.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just the whole, idea of what is this all for? After you've achieved health and fitness, why do the nutrition challenge? Mm-hmm. I'm doing this nutrition challenge for Verity right now. I don't really have weight to lose or gain. But I mean, I think it's important to still try and push yourself, and I have goals in the sport, and I also have, goals in the training methodology side of CrossFit. But I think that as long as you are aware of why you're doing what you're doing, I think you can be successful. I think as soon as you are starting to question yourself, you need to look at what the balance in your life is. And I've coached a few people, or tried to coach a few people through this as they become more competitive and they become more involved. The reality of wanting to be more competitive is that you are going to have to spend more time in the gym. You're going to have to spend more time eating healthy food. You're going to have to spend more time cooking healthy food. Mm-hmm. you're just going to have to put in extra time. And those hours that you're putting in towards your goal of being more athletic or at a certain elite level, you have to weigh that with the other areas of your life, which are your family, relationships, and your work. And if you put more effort into training, you can almost guarantee that those two other areas are going to slip at a point.
And that balance is hard, dude.
For sure.
That's really hard. Who was I talking to about this? Man, I can't remember.
I mean,
I was talking to somebody just about balance in life, right? And that's ultimately what I want. I want to, I would love to have a 40-hour work week, right? That would be, if I could do like 8 to 4, that'd be great. That rarely happens. But if I could do that, be in the gym / jiu-jitsu, like 1-2 hours a day, like that's plenty. And then, the rest of that time is spent with, people, right? Family, friends. That'd be awesome, man. But getting that correct balance is really tough.
For sure.
Right. And it's not like, I don't know, it's not always going to be like a perfectly straight line. Some days you're going to fail. Some days you're going to, and most days, like you're aiming for most days, like you want to do really well.
Yeah.
And, but you're not always going to feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if your goal is to be competitive in the sport, then I think the first thing you need to do is be competitive with the previous version of yourself. And if it's hard to look at it like, here's my goal. Every day I come into the gym and I have not achieved my goal, And that's a really like negative way of looking at your progress and your future, instead of saying, hey, here's my goal, and it's going to take a long time to get there. It's probably going to take 2-3 years to get there if it is competing at a high level in this sport. And weighing out the pros and cons of what's going to have to slip, what's going to have to be sacrificed. And a lot of people they walk blindly into training high volume or, dedicating themselves to being competitive when the rest of their life is just falling apart. And then their life falls apart, and then they realize that their life falling apart forces them to stop training at a high level. Maybe by getting injured, or by, your girlfriend breaking up with you, or you're losing your job because you're not paying attention because you're training all the time.
Right.
So I mean, I think it is a fine line. But I also she keeps bringing up this question of like, why? I really don't think it matters. I think as long as the balance between your work, your family and relationships, and your fitness and fitness goals are balanced, then I don't think it matters how much you train. I think you can do as much as you want. I don't think there's a reason that you have to I don't think you have to have a reason to want to be competitive or to take it to the next level or to spend 4 hours in the gym, as long as everything else in your life lines up with that,
Yeah, I kind of like that you said that, because I would have suggested, hey, you need to take an audit at your life, and you need to figure out, hey, why are you in the gym? And you got to remind yourself of that. But then I would also say that, I love following just like Occam's razor, that the simplest answer is typically the right answer. And if being in here brings you joy to be in here 3-4 hours a day, and you can, then there's no problem with that. And I certainly felt that way, and I really enjoyed it. I was an RX athlete, but I was nowhere close to, going to regionals or being nearly competitive like that. But it brought me a lot of joy to just throw down, be in the gym by myself. It was therapeutic for me.
And that's when you were managing,
it's really
right?
good, too. I'm sorry?
And that's when you were managing, right?
That was, correct.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, if you either need to have in my opinion, in these days, I think you either need to be a gym owner, a full-time coach, or you need to have a job where you're wiggling your mouse. Because if your job takes any amount of attention, if your family takes any amount of attention, your chances of legitimately getting 3 to 4 hours of good training in the gym to make it to that level, it's just not realistic for you to put those stresses on the other aspects of your life.
Yeah, but it can happen. There's Patrick Vellner, Brent Fikowski. Those guys have, both done that simultaneously while doing full-time work or being full-time in school. But those are also, kind of anomalies and antidotes too, right?
Sure.
Not very common, and two very, very good people when we talk about the history of,
100%.
CrossFit Games people.
But you also don't know what their relationships are like.
That's very true.
So it's they may have a great balance between school, work, and training, but, neither of those dudes are married.
Pat's married.
Is he?
Brent's,
wow,
Brent's,
I look
Brent,
so stupid
now. I
now.
think Brent is also married.
Oh,
If he's not, he's been living with this person for a long time.
Well, they're not very public about it, but
yeah, I think they've been in their relationships for multiple years or more.
Oh wow,
like since 2016.
Well,
It's
I'm
okay.
incorrect.
That's a fun fact for you,
I'm
man.
incorrect, but
And the only reason I know that is because I stalk them on YouTube.
yeah.
So, good to
So
go.
I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience, and I've
but that's a good
had
point,
this
too.
balance shift multiple times where it's like, right now the balance is shifting towards more training for me. But like a year ago I wasn't training this much. And I think that's fine. And as long as you're okay with it, I think you can do as much as you want as long as the rest of your life doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
And I think also, people take this the other way, which kind of leads into what we're going to talk about next in the open. But you want to take a quick break first?
Mm-hmm. All right, jumping back in here, man. So we're transitioning from, why are we being competitive? Why do we do what we do? Why are we in the gym over to what's going to be occurring here in the next month? I can't believe it's a month away, but it always sneaks up on us is the CrossFit Open.
6 weeks. Yeah, and I mean, I think that a lot of people get to this point in the year where we start pushing you to sign up for the Open and, hey, it's going to be an awesome thing. And I think that just like I don't think you need a reason to, I don't think that just because you aren't training at a high level that you shouldn't go and compete. I think that there's a lot of people that have misconceptions about what competition is, and a lot of what I see is people compete more in the day-to-day coming into the gym than they will in other aspects of their life or all year. And I think the Open is a great chance for you to push yourself to do a little bit more and to, feel what it's like to, race against the clock and have someone counting your reps and, take it to that next level. Because it is kind of, for those of us who see this as a health and fitness thing, that can get unmotivational at a point where it becomes like brushing your teeth and taking a shower. And so the Open in, other like local small competitions is like, it's a great chance for you to, say, hey, this is my why. Or this is, I'm going to take this as an annual test of seeing how far I've progressed or, where my health and fitness is going and, how I need to adjust that going forward. I don't think people have to just look at it as like, oh, well, I'm doing the Open, so that means I'm a competitor. It's like, no, you're doing the Open because you're competing in the Open because you want to have a fun time and you want to enjoy all the things that come with being a part of the Open experience. But that doesn't necessarily mean like you need to put in more volume or, now you need to train for the Open. Like, I think that's the complete wrong way to think about it, because CrossFit is a training methodology. And if you are doing CrossFit and the Open comes up and you sign up, you've been training for the Open, and that's, when people don't do the Open, it's a little bit disheartening to me because it's like, well, you're going to do the workout anyways. You're going to do it on Friday. Why not, be involved and, give yourself that metric. But,
sure.
What do you think about the Open? You like, do you
Yeah.
think that everyone should be involved? Do you think that you need to be competitive to jump into the Open?
Yeah, I mean, the first thought that I have coming here, we'll touch on this briefly, we don't talk about it a lot, is like I was so bummed when Castro got let go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really was. And the reason why is I don't know Dave, but my closest mentor knows Dave very well, speaks very, very highly of Dave and his impact on, building coaches primarily, and then just like how much integrity he has, how good of a person he is and everything like that. And he created this sport, right? I mean, this is his baby, his thing. And it did not make a ton of sense to me. And, the greater brand of CrossFit, like, I guess I'll say that I'm worried about the direction that it's going to go. But at the same time, like, I'm not that worried. I mean, ultimately the thing is going to be left up to the owners to do what they're going to do, but since the transition from, Glassman, I feel like it's almost like become more corporate, in that we've lost some of the value that made CrossFit really beautiful, which was, man, we were trying to take on the likes of big food and all this stuff to make people healthier. And I think some of that's gotten lost in like on a focus on the games. That's a personal opinion, though, and we don't have to go into that much if you want to. But that's my first initial instinct to the Open. Is I'm bummed that Dave's not going to be a part of it, or at least a part of it to his own accord, and being able to hang it up when he wanted to.
For sure.
But yeah, that's my personal opinion, man.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's interesting because while I was growing up in CrossFit, like, sure, and I was around, when it was like grungy, like
you're an OG, dude.
Pukey the Clown, like all that is like not a thing anymore. Like Unbuyable, Forging Elite Fitness, like that. All of that did go away, and it did become more corporate, sure. But I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. And like I was saying, when I was growing up in CrossFit, I did not care at all about CrossFit's fight against Big Soda. Mm-hmm. I did not care about CrossFit's health initiative. Mm-hmm. And most people didn't. Mm-hmm. I think that, and that may have just been a result of how it was branded and how Glassman talked about it and everything else. And it wasn't as publicized as the games and being an affiliate and all of that was. So I don't know. I never really, I understand the CrossFit Health Initiative, and I understand, the root of why we're doing what we're doing here, for sure. As an affiliate owner, I understand that better than most people. But from the public's eyes and from, my feeling about it, I was always interested in tip of the spear, Forging Elite Fitness, unknown and unknowable, be the best you can be, all of those kind of things, which, more leads towards the sport aspect of things than the health aspect of things.
Yeah, and I was brought into CrossFit through the games, right? Mm-hmm. So and I like the games a lot, so I'm not saying that I don't like it. But when I came into CrossFit, something that was so attractive to me really was that, and just finding truth in everything behind health, right? I mean, the obesity metric here is 40%. It might be higher than that in America. And there's this, man. There's so much bullshit out there in regards to nutrition and food, and there's so much information out there that's just really bad. And it was awesome to me that there was an organization that was taking that on and really fighting for the truth to get good information to people. So that they could live longer and healthier lives, and they were simply doing what was right, not for money, but they were just doing what was right.
100%.
So that was really attractive to me. We don't have to get more into that, but sure. I liked your perspective on it, though. It was good.
But yeah, I also don't, going back to Dave, I don't think that. I think that people. I totally understand the reason that he was let go, and I think that you can't have, if you're trying to professionalize the sport or the brand or whatever, you can't have one person releasing major details of a global sport on his Instagram page. The way that he handled himself was like he was the Dave Castro brand who had this role in being the master of puppets behind the games. And so if you're trying to take the games to the next level, I think that having that master of puppets figure is not going to promote long-term growth in the sport to where it is professional at that level. I think that, it'll always be kind of, if you have that as the aspect of it, there's so many nostalgic great things about Dave Castro and about what he did. But I also if you look at the future of it, it's well, how long are you going to what other sport is there somebody that's hey guys, Kent was saying the other day, who's what if this year the NFL was guess what guys, we're going to take this up the next notch. The football's going to explode, and it's there's one dude is doing it. It's always this is going to be the hardest, most grueling open you've ever had. I just feel that, without leaving that checked, it's just never going to be, I guess, professionalized or worldwide, or at the point that I think a lot of us would like to see the sport go.
Yeah, and it had to exist without him at some point, right?
sure.
So I mean, you're absolutely right about that. Going forward, it'll be interesting. Like I thought we took a step backwards when they added. I liked quarterfinals. I thought that was fine, but like when they basically added semifinals back in, like it's regionals, and I didn't agree with anything, I didn't agree with everything in sanctionals. But what I did like about it is it left the season up to the athlete, and it didn't really punish you if you were injured at the wrong time, and you could qualify different ways. And I thought that would have been a much easier way to professionalize the sport, where it's going to look like something like tennis or like golf, and also that there were other opportunities, like massive opportunities for individuals to make money in the sport. Whereas semifinals becomes like, you go win, great, but you get $5K. And I'm not saying that's like an insignificant amount of money, but like there were sanctionals out there where you're making like 100 G's or something like that, where there's a real opportunity for you to go out there, and if you're really good at this, where you can actually make a living doing that and everything like that, right? So I thought that was an interesting take, and as we go forward, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah,
you got any opinions on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think those events will always still be. And this is something that Kenta and I have been talking about recently. Is like, well, now that Dave's gone, like, is nobody going to care about the CrossFit Games in a couple years, or is it going to be, and everybody only cares about the Rogue Invitational? Like, I don't think that's the way it's going to be.
I don't think that's the way it's going to go.
I think that the CrossFit season is going to be more corporate and more professionalized, and then I think there will be all these other offshoot local competitions where you could potentially make more money than in the actual like track of just following the CrossFit sponsored competitions.
Right.
But I don't think that the CrossFit, like the open, quarters, semis, games, I don't think that's going to go away. And I do think that 4-tiered stage is a better way of doing it than just open regionals games. Especially when they pared down the open finishes to the top 20 in your region. I thought that was a little aggressive. But
yeah.
I don't know. I am very positive for the future. I'm really excited for this year's Open. I am disappointed that Dave is not doing the programming.
Yeah.
Like, I would have preferred to have Dave. But I do understand, why. And I think that like most things, you could have just had a coaching conversation and just been like, hey, but I've also heard things where it's like Dave's not the type of guy where you give him a coaching conversation and say, hey, tone it back on posting dead pigs on your Instagram.
Sure.
Like, you're just not going to tell that guy that, which is fine. But I would have liked to see him at least like see out the games this year, and been able to like
it would have been
create all 4 stages, because he had the Open finished. And now like a lot of the comments on their posts are like, are we still getting Dave Castro's Open?
Yeah.
or what, and like, how is that going to play into things? But
so let's bring it full circle. Like, what do I think of the Open? I like the Open a lot, and I like it for a variety of different reasons. I do like that it can provide you a benchmark from last year to this year. If you really kind of want that data, and I really like that it's kind of a test, I'm going to say, for most people that come into CrossFit gyms, where you're going to go pretty hard. It's 3 weeks now for most. Used to be 5 weeks, but you're going to go really hard. And I think that's a good thing to test yourself, see what your limits are going to be, see how far you can push yourself physically and also mentally as well. And probably more mental than it is physical in regards to that. My favorite thing about the Open is the opportunity it brings to bring the entire community together. It is so cool that you could, if you really wanted to, go over to Russia, find a CrossFit gym on a Friday night, and do the exact same workout that we're going to be doing here, right? The language is going to be different, but if you watch, you can see what they're doing. So it's like we're all speaking universal language, which is really cool. In addition to that, in the intra competition, like, you get to come in here into Verity Speed and Strength on a Friday night and watch these people do this, or on a Thursday night, watch Monroe, put his videos up and everything like that. But it's very fun, and that was my favorite part probably the entire year. When I was running a gym and managing that, man, we had a ton of fun. We had 150 members, and we would have upwards of probably 100 people that were walking into the gym on Friday night, dressed up, cheering people on. It was almost like being on a sports team again, And, man, we had a ton of fun doing that, and it's an awesome opportunity to get to be a part of that. Any plans for stuff for the facility this year?
I mean, we're going to do an intramural open just like
Sweet.
we did last year. We'll do different prizes. We'll do different things for each week. I love that the format is 3 weeks now. It just makes things so much more manageable.
I liked that last year.
And like, dude, but after 3 weeks, anyways, you're burnt out. You're like, I'm done with this open thing. I'm done competing.
Yeah, I agree with that. 5 was a lot.
Yeah, 5 was a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think the open's great. And kind of bringing it back to the beginning where we're talking about the why. What's the point of all this? I think that the open is a great why for a lot of people who have, who are at that level where they've been doing this for a few months and they're kind of like, man, I've seen a lot of progress. I've seen a lot of great results. What's next? I think that's a great annual opportunity for people to see, hey, this is what I'm shooting for. Even if it is a casual kind of once a year, I just want to kind of do a little bit better than I did last year. I think that is an awesome why. I think that if you're just starting CrossFit, I think that the Open is a great opportunity for you to be involved in the community. But I also don't think that the Open should be your why. I think that fixing whatever you originally came in here for should be your why. Whether that's losing weight, whether that's getting stronger, whether that's, fixing your knees or whatever it is. I think that needs to be a priority. And the Open can be a fun side thing. And then I think that for the people who are serious and they are competitors, I think that this is the time that you need to put your all into it. And I don't think that you have to have a why. I don't think you have to explain to anyone why you're training for the Open or why you care about being competitive at a high level or why you're training for 3 hours a day. For a lot of people, that looks stupid and it looks crazy. And you're like, dude, why would you spend that much time beating yourself up in the gym?
Yeah.
I think that working for 10 hours a day behind a computer is stupid. That's just me, And so
yeah.
I don't think you have to have a why to want to be competitive. And I also don't think you have to have a why to do the Open. I think that you should look at the Open as fun, and you should look at your personal goals as serious. And if you're serious about your personal goals, then the Open may not be fun for you. But it's also nobody's business to tell you what your goals should be or why you should be doing what you're doing.
Right.
Again, as long as the other areas of your life are fine. I think that, people train a lot and then other things start to fall apart, and that's a really bad situation to put yourself in.
What is your why going into the Open?
My why?
Your why.
Personal. My personal why.
Your personal why.
My personal why is to support the team competition at this gym. So one of my personal goals is to send a team eventually to the games from Verity to compete for the Affiliate Cup. I think that's I always saw, my personal athletic endeavors as a very selfish thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being able to be, selfish about my fitness and my training is fine, but I think it's so much more rewarding to make it more than me, and make it bigger than me. And, this me saying support the team, I hope that I'm not the person that goes, I want to be able to develop athletes that will take this and run with it 5 years from now. So that maybe, the groundwork that we're laying this year, next year, the year after, hopefully I'll be on a team where I can go to the semis and compete for a shot at the games. I think that'd be awesome, and that's a personal goal of mine. But I really hope that I can just be the leader that brings together the people for years and years to come that will have this be a household name at the games or at the semis or whatever, So yeah, that's kind of my personal goal. I would like to qualify a team for team quarterfinals this year. So I made it to the quarterfinals last year, kind of just without too much effort, to be honest. And I think once you get to a level in the sport, you kind of just are at that level and you can kind of just walk to quarterfinals if you want. The team is a lot different. And I see the team as a way harder thing because it's not about my fitness and it's not about what I can control. It's about being a leader and being able to inspire the males and females around me to do what they need to do. And that goes down from the men and women that are hopefully next to me competing on the team all the way down to the men and women that are just coming here for the 9 a.m. class to, work out with their friends and get a little bit healthy. So that's kind of my personal goal, but I see myself much more in the leadership role, and my fitness is, I just need to be healthy and strong and able to do what I know I can do, and my fitness is plenty, I think, to get us there. So
I like it. And if you guys just want to come have fun and spend time with friends, I'm going to take the Open as an opportunity just to do that and spend time with my wife. It's going to be a good time to be in here. I like it, man. I think we leave it there. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that too.
All right, you guys. If you guys are listening here on YouTube, if you guys could like the video, that'd be great. And again, Monroe, what are the new social media handles? Where can we find us?
New social media is Verity.training.
Okay.
So that's our Instagram, and then I think it's Verity Training something.
We'll double
on
check
Facebook.
that.
We're not too worried about
we'll
Facebook.
Post it. So we'll go from there. If you guys could be so kind as to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, if you guys are enjoying the show, we greatly would appreciate that. Best of luck in your training up to the Open, guys. We're looking forward to it. This is Coach Monroe, Coach Brandon coming at you. You're listening to the Verity Podcast.